Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Well, let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from NoGrand4260 from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, and it says, would I be the arsehole for throwing every wrestling match I am forced to attend? My 15-male school has recently restarted all of the sports programs after almost a year of no/limited activity. Before that, I was part of the swim team, one of the smaller groups at our school. I love swimming and that really sucked that we couldn't go for such a long time. With the restart, the school also made a new system. Every student writes down 3 different after-school activities in order of interest. So 1, choice is your favorite, 2, your second favorite, and so on. The teachers in charge of the groups then pick the students. First pick is students who already belong to the groups before lockdown. Second pick is then random, and third pick is if there are still places left open in the group. Since I was part of the swim team before and put it down as my first choice, I'd basically be guaranteed to get in. But now the results are out and I was placed in wrestling. I never even put that on my list at all. So I went to the teacher and asked what was going on. Turns out the teacher in charge of wrestling specifically requested me for whatever reason. Turns out my dad knows the wrestling teacher quite well and asked for me to be placed on the team. I know my dad hates that I prefer swimming. He always says it's not a real sport, and that I should do some sport that actually gives me muscles. He constantly tells me I'm too skinny for a guy and has made several attempts to make me go to the gym to work out. I asked the teachers if I can still switch teams, but they say no. I also cannot just avoid the wrestling club because after school activities are mandatory. But last night I had a huge fight with my dad. I called him an arse for forcing me to go to wrestling and that I will just forfeit every single match I have to attend. He threatened me, saying if I do that, he will take away all my electronics and I will only be allowed to leave the house for school and nothing else. My mum says I should have the right to choose whatever sport I want, but now that I'm on the wrestling team, I should still do my best. Also, not to call my dad an ass. But I don't want to participate in something I have zero interest in, was forced into even. Also, I was really looking forward to swimming again and meeting my teammates. OP edited the post the same day and said, thanks so far for the support. Next week I will talk to more teachers, guidance teacher, and write to the principal. Yes, I will also try to talk with my mum again and maybe convince her. Also will mention what some people wrote, that wrestling could be potentially dangerous. Maybe that will convince her. Worst case, I will go through with it and just put in zero effort if no one listens to me. Hope adds another post around 9 hours later and says, so this has gotten a lot more responses than I thought. First of all, thanks to everyone supporting me. I talked to my mum again without my dad nearby. She still thinks I should give wrestling a try, but if I really want to change, she will support me. So next week I will go and talk to my first swim coach and the wrestling coach and hopefully get it resolved. Otherwise, I will go further to the principal. I can post an update next week and tell you guys how things worked out. Some of you suggested I should go to the newspaper or something, but I really do not feel comfortable blowing things up like that. Slandering the school is going to backfire like 100%. I have also gotten a lot of creative things instead of just throwing the match. I would like to show my face in public sometime, so no. I will just ignore most of the really weird suggestions. Thanks, I guess. I also got a few questions about the rule of afternoon activities being mandatory. So we have to do activities for 2 years total, but we are free to choose when we do them during high school. We can choose between a lot of club activities offered by the school, not just sports, but all kind of activities. Music, art, reading/writing clubs, gardening, or even game design. School club activities are always free, and if you require financial assistance for like an instrument or so, I think you can also get financial aid. But I don't really know the details. Additionally, if we attend a club or regular activity outside of school, we can also get credits for that. Just need to work it out with the teachers. We also don't get grades or something. It is just noted on our final report. I also do not really know what happens if you don't complete them. What an absolute bizarre way of thinking that swimming is not a real sport and get a sport that gives you muscles. The ignorance is just unreal. And if OP, I was in the dad situation, OP came up to me and told me that they wanted to continue swimming, they was keen to do a sport that they love, I would be so proud of that. I wouldn't be putting that down and trying to switch them around or anything like that, or convince them to do something else. I'd be proud that they're doing something that they love, something that's good for them, something that's healthy for them, something that helps them socialize with their friends as well. OP sounds like they got a good head on their shoulders, and I feel like they're being failed by all the adults around them at the moment. And I think they should go to the teachers and explain the full situation here, because like you said, you're being forced to do something you don't want to do, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And a part of me is just thinking, is there more going on in this story? I can't believe that someone would think swimming doesn't give you muscles. But some of the comments in this one where OP replied, they said, what the fuck? Swimming is very much a workout. And OP said, yeah, I will try and talk to my teachers again. Maybe they will let me switch later, because I know a lot of people are asking right now to switch since they didn't get their first choice or so. And yeah, Dad doesn't like cardio workouts and so on. He wants me to eat more and lift to get bulky like him. Someone suggests a compromise and tell your dad that you'll go to the gym with him, and OP says teachers get to pick students to build the teams back up. But I don't think the idea was to just pick a random student like me, who never was on the team to begin with. Also hard no on the gym thing. I've tried working out with my dad together. He's a jerk, always telling me to lift more, and that I'm pathetic for not being as strong as he is. Oh, dearie me. Another comment says, but if the sports aren't mandatory, why can't you switch activities? OP says this is the first time the school has done things like this, because lockdown and so on. Maybe they will let people switch later on. Results came out this week, but I don't know. The homeroom teacher who collected the vote just immediately told me no, I can't change. OP updates the post 4 days later and says, so I wanted to write an update after the situation has been resolved. First things first, I'm back on the swim team for now. Today was a really weird and awkward day. First opportunity, I went to talk to my swim coach and explain the whole situation, that I'm not willing to stay on the wrestling team. He's pretty mad at my dad as well as the wrestling coach. So he took me to the secretary, explained the whole thing and asked her to change the list. She was in turn quite mad because apparently the whole system is a big mess. I'm not even remotely the only student who was misplaced. So then the secretary called in my homeroom teacher. There was a lot of accusations. I was just standing there feeling awkward. Really weird to see three adults being mad at each other. In the end, I was basically told by all three to just ignore the whole thing, and I can just join the swim team if I want to. I figured that was it. Until the end of the school day, then the wrestling coach had me come to his office. He gave me a long talk about how disappointed he is, how he had high hopes for me, blah blah blah. I told him I really don't care and that he was a jerk for just ignoring what I want to do. To sum up, wrestling coach mad at me, home teacher mad at me for complaining, swimming coach mad at school, and my dad is probably going to freak out when he hears that I won't wrestle. Oh well. Lastly, I want to thank all the people that encouraged me to stand up for myself. You had a lot of good advice and some really weird advice and some really terrible but funny advice. Thank you all. Now that really annoyed me that after this situation, the wrestling coach still decided to pull OP in and then give him a lecture about how disappointed he is and all this sort of stuff, still not respecting his wishes. And I know, OP's young and they don't want to escalate the situation further, but they got the swim coach on their side. And I think I would still be telling the swim coach about what's happening here because that is not on. But OP gave a small update the same day and said, Mum told Dad about the switch as he came home from work. He has so far completely ignored me. Not a single word. Actually, a nice outcome, I guess. 2 days later, OP says, I wanted to add a last point here. Last night I had a talk with my dad and my mum. It was awkward. Dad apologized for the wrestling thing, but also said he wants me to grow up strong so that I can defend myself. He said swimming won't help me when I get in trouble. I was really confused about that because I never have been bullied or gotten in trouble or something like that. Mum later told me that my dad used to get bullied a lot in high school. So he started working out in college and that helped him out a lot. I guess he wanted me to do the same. It's really weird at home at the moment, but I guess he is not a complete ass. Still kinda, but I don't know. And there were some relevant comments which OP responded to. So someone says, why does the homeroom teacher blame you? And why did the wrestling coach have high hopes? OP says the homeroom teacher was supposed to collect the choices and then evaluate them. Don't know the details. He also gave us the results, so he had to explain to the secretary why my choices were ignored. She was not happy when he said, because wrestling coach said so. I guess homeroom teacher was mad for being called out like that. As to the wrestling coach, I don't know. I guess he wanted to make me feel bad or something like that. No idea what Dad told him. Someone says report the wrestling coach. Opie says I guess I could report him, but at this point I'm just happy that things worked out. Don't really want to potentially stir up more trouble. Someone was still baffled that Dad thinks swimmers aren't in shape. Opie says he'd probably say Michael Phelps is way too skinny to be a real man. Maybe I should point out how stretched my dad's shirts are from his beer belly. And moving forward, Opie says, can't wait until I start studying and can move out. So all this came down to was your dad being bullied and him projecting all his past trauma onto you, which is absolutely awful. Whilst I understand, bullying does cause trauma, first-hand experience myself, projecting that onto other people, pushing that onto other people is always going to make you an ass. You need to seek help for that rather than pass on that trauma to someone else. And a line that's still stuck in my head when you said that you've tried working out with him before, and he said that you need to lift more and called you pathetic for not being as strong as him. And I find it just super sad because he's projecting all this, he's damaging his relationship with his son. And that last line where it's moving forward says, I can't wait until I start studying and can move out. But again, I hope they continue to be in that swimming team and do what they love. Like I said, I think they sound like they have a good head on their shoulders. They can stand up for themselves and they will make the choices for themselves. And I hope they continue to do that. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. So our next story is from I Want Steamed Hams, does come with a little update as well, and says, am I the arsehole? Guy I went to school with refused to say he knew me, and then got upset when he wanted something from me. My wife and I had a New Year's resolution to do more hands-on volunteer work this year. So me being an IT guy, I found a group that refurbishes computers for students. I thought it was a slam dunk, sounded like an easy thing to do, and it was aligned with what I do for a living. On my first day in orientation, I ran into a guy that I went to school with around 10 years ago. I spent 3 years in school with this guy and I immediately recognized him. The guy is on my LinkedIn as well, so I know him. We did projects together. There are pictures of us at graduation. I 100% know the guy. I went over to say hi and he was sort of evasive about saying anything to me. I was initially confused because I thought we were on good terms. When I said, hey man, it's me from school. He said he knew who I was, but apparently once graduation was done, he decided to move on from school and he'd be done with it. He told me he wanted to deal with adults and wanted nothing to do with people he went to school with. This was despite the fact that we were now in our 30s, so we weren't exactly students anymore. So that kind of hurt, but whatever. I respected his decision and left him alone. There were a dozen other people there, so I went about with orientation and everything. I didn't see the guy again for the rest of the day. A couple of hours later, when we were all done, I'd met a few people who were actually sociable, and we decided to go across the street to a pub. I was in a good mood and told them the first round was on me because I had a good day. So we go over to the pub and that guy shows up and sits down at the table. I asked, what are you doing here? I'm not buying you a drink, you don't know me. The guy called me an arsehole and a bunch of other colourful language and walked away. I explained to the group I was with the situation and they were like, what the fuck? I got an email from the event coordinator yesterday. Apparently the guy complained about me, said I'm not a team player. Luckily, the coordinator heard my side of the story and was fine with it, so I'm good. But I have to continue dealing with this guy if I continue going to volunteer. So, what the hell? I like the organisation and want to continue with it. A few people have mentioned to me that I should have just bought the guy a drink, but out of principle, I won't buy a drink for someone who disrespects me. Am I the arsehole for telling the guy to leave the table at the pub? Edit, just for clarification, this was a college friend, not a high school friend. Edit, so I got some more info. I messaged another guy I went to school with who also knows the guy. He told me they used to hang out a lot until around 4 years ago, when out of the blue the guy just stopped talking to him. He sent him a crazy long text message basically saying the same thing that he said to me. I moved on. I don't want to associate with old classmates. But Anon says, everyone sucks here. It doesn't sound like he wanted anything from you. He sat down with fellow volunteers and you proactively were rude. Whatever thing he said to you about not being friends, he seemed to say to just you. It was weird and rude, so he sucks. But you didn't say anything at the time. In fact, you say you respected his decision and left him alone. Except you didn't. The next opportunity you got, you decided to hurt him right back in front of his colleagues. That wasn't cool. You essentially told him to fuck off, but who are you to police who gets to hang out with the sociable volunteers? DC Moonwalk says you're the arsehole. Your narration sounds like you are someone who is definitely that guy that people low-key can't stand but put up with anyway. He was evasive towards you because he didn't like you in college. Lol. Wow, you're so clueless, to which is typical of people like you. Then you continued to show your true colors by forming a posse of flying monkeys, intentionally leaving him out. You could have extended an olive branch like an adult. Instead, you acted like a sulky little kid, and then you humiliated and bullied him. No wonder he pretended not to know you. You've clearly been the arsehole your entire adult life. A modicum of self-awareness is always helpful. Maybe give therapy a try. Youth in Asia 63 says, the man you used to be friendly with at school flat out told you he wanted to move on and have nothing to do with his old classmates from so long ago. Now, by the time you and the other volunteers went to the pub across the road, old classmate may have reconsidered. Or maybe he thought he could get a free drink, or he wanted to sit with the other volunteers, and you were just there too. Or who knows what the fuck he was thinking to sit at the table. But you made it clear you weren't going to buy him a drink, and he didn't like that. Sucks for him, not the arsehole. So someone asked the OP, they said, did he ask you to buy him a drink, or did he just join the table of people he recognized? OP says, I have no idea how he ended up at the table at the pub. I have no idea who invited him. He must have seen us walking over. Someone replies to that and says, then he might have just been hanging out with co-workers, dude. OP says, well, considering he wasn't around the group of us the entire day, I doubt it. The people at the table didn't seem to know him. They were confused why I asked a stranger to leave. I had to explain what was going on to them. I might be Weasel says, not the arsehole. I can't begin to comprehend what was going through his head. Why would he spurn you in such an overly expositional way? And what would make him try to socialize with you after? None of it makes any sense. Opie says the drive home was perplexing. It kind of shook me to my core. My wife didn't believe me when I told her the story. And let's have one more comment from Historical Garbage, who says not the arsehole. It's good the coordinator was willing to listen to the situation and understand the conflict. There are so many social nuances we experience in life. If Guy told you to get lost when you try to engage your connection with him, you owe nothing. Talking shit is never really a good idea in professional environments. I know it's volunteering, but that doesn't negate being a decent human and minding your business. It affects your professional career or desired social circle with this community. I would definitely be loudly honest whenever he comes around, lol. Good luck. And it's one of those ones that just had me thinking, what was going on? What was going through that guy's head to say, I don't want nothing to do with you, but then to turn up at the pub? He might be just trying to socialize with the others, but it still seems like a strange thing to do. If this person suggested, oh, let's all go across the pub, I'll buy the first round, and I didn't want anything to do with that person, I don't think I'd turn up. Is there past history that we're missing here? Something along those lines? I don't know. I hope we're going to find out in the update, which OP says. So this whole saga has been resolved. I hadn't been to the volunteer session since the whole incident happened, and I was mostly over it. I contacted a few other classmates and they basically told me that the guy I had an issue with did the same thing to all of them. The only difference was that I actually ran into the guy in person. That's what made it super awkward. I emailed the event coordinator earlier today because I was interested in volunteering this weekend and next weekend. I wanted to make sure that guy wasn't already on the schedule. Turns out he was there last weekend and he had an absolute meltdown against one of the other volunteers. I don't have any specifics, but apparently it was bad. They told him to leave the premises and he isn't allowed back. One of my new friends from the bar incident saw it happen and the guy just lost his mind without any provocation. I'll get more details this weekend. So I guess the issue is resolved. I'm still extremely confused, but I'm just going to move on. And while that's somewhat of a conclusion and OP is going to be able to go and volunteer without any hassle, I still want to know why. What's happening? Which I will certainly keep an eye out for. But what do you suspect's going on in this situation? Are you as confused as I am? I mean, it's easy for me to be confused, but hey, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories, your love, support, and time, and sending me your pictures of what you're doing whilst you're listening absolutely makes my day. I need to bring back Pet Tax Tuesday soon, but your pics recently, they absolutely make my day when I log on and you show me what you're up to. Like, like Jennifer, who showed me her artwork, got an absolutely amazing style. The sweetest brown coat playing ESO while listening in. Aurora sent a pic of them working on their novel. I can't get over how amazing it is to see it. So thank you so much, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.